Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Corey Hackler, DPR Construction USA. So I'm presenting on paper 301, and really today we're going to be talking about communication, continuous improvement, and respect for people. So our company, DPR, is really set up to foster lean principles and lean ideas. Our core values: integrity, enjoyment, uniqueness, and ever forward. So we get the support from our upper management to really push and drive the initiatives of lean construction. So I'm going to take you guys on a little bit of a journey about continuous improvement, and then we'll get into some conversation about how we're training our employees now. So early 2000 was my first exposure to lean construction. We had a $500 million hospital. We had 4 buildings, which are indicated by the 4 different colors on the chart. I ran the building that is indicated by the black, and the other 3 were ran with traditional methods. From this, I learned, okay, well, the last planner system, we hired a hired a coach that came out and helped us learn the last planner. So we started to implement the last planner, and I was kind of the only one that took those initiatives and drove those principles. So what we did is we were tracking our PPC as different groups, and you can see when we did the last planner, our PPC was pretty consistent and pretty even. The rest of the buildings all over the place, and they actually ended up just stopping tracking PPC completely. So with that being said, we learned from this that the last planner and communication was huge, right? So we fast forward 14 years later, our skill set starts to get better. We start getting more and advanced with the last planner system. What do you guys think happened 14 years later? We like this nice level PPC chart. 14 years later, this is what it looks like. It's all over the place, right? But some people would look at this and say this job was not successful. This was a $700 million job. We pulled a year out of the schedule, and we still finished a month early. So with that being said, what we started to get out of this was we learned that we're getting better at our network of commitments. We were starting to understand better what did that mean, and how do we understand those. The reason I put this chart up here is you can see at the very beginning there's a 50% and a 30% PPC. That was a concrete pour where we had a lot of issues in the slab. We ended up doing the exact same pour 2 months later, and our PPC was up at 80 and 75%. So what we're trying to say here is that we did pull planning, we tried to get it figured out, but there's some stuff in the field that you can't see until you actually install. So what we did is we learned from our mistakes and we moved forward, we poured a better slab the next time, and that was what we were talking about, was continuous improvement. We also started to ask our sub-trades, what do you guys think? How do you think this is working better? This is a perfect quote because it said, you did a great job of providing us the areas needed and treating us with respect in our craft. So that told us that continuous improvement, respect for people, right? So at DPR, we started looking at how do we want to train our employees. So this is kind of a typical chart of how we train the last planner and lean, right? So we basically start with the exposure to lean. We talk about product systems and workflow, interdependence and variability. We teach the last planner system, talk about network of commitments, and we move on, right? So we continue to go through this cycle. What we did was we tried to look at how can we improve people's skill sets, and how can we look at leadership. So what we did is we put together what we call the Lean Leadership class. This is an 8-week course, so it starts with different chapters of focus. Every week they have a chapter of focus, they read sections out of what's called the People Book, and then they have a homework assignment. They answer 5 to 10 questions about how they can apply the concepts. Every week we had a 1-hour phone call that the students could call in and get each student 5 minutes, what we called on stage, where they could share what they felt the most passionate about in the course content. That allowed us to show respect for people, and we started hearing stories all across the country. We offered this training up to our whole company, and that's all across the U.S. The first year we had 105 people sign up for the class. So that told us that there was a need and there was people that were interested in learning this stuff. So as we move forward, each student leaves with their own, what we call here is a radar chart. So this shows you all the different chapters and all the different sections that we discuss as a lean organization. Going back to leader standard work, that's one whole section we discuss about, protecting your standard work, right? When you're out there doing work, you've got to protect that plan. The other sections that we talk about, one is go and see leadership. So a traditional leader will go out to the job site and say, why aren't you done? And we're trying to teach people to go out to the job site and say, how can I help, right? So changing the way we address issues and look at things. Another chapter that's really important is we talked about respect and no blaming. So we teach people to start looking at processes and blame processes, not people, right? That changes the whole dynamic of a project, right? And we start looking at things and saying, what's the issue with the process, not what's the issue with the company or the specific forum. So that helped us a lot with trying to get these points across. One of the best ones is the first chapter, which is lean versus traditional thinking. So that just identifies the difference between the two. So then the last thing we've done is we've taken this chart, and this shows us as a company, on average, where do we want to focus our time and energy. So 120 people through the class, this is what we've learned. There are 4 areas of improvement as DPR. Focus, alignment, constancy of purpose, value stream thinking, and effective measurement and reflection. So as we kind of went through this stuff, again, starting to get quotes from students. This is a great one because it says, one person cannot make the project lean, but one person can promote lean philosophies to the project team and foster a collaborative environment where these principles take root and are applied. And this is just coming from the student when they reflect at the end of the course, right? So they're starting to reflect, they're starting to tell us what's different. How are they going to go about their job in a different way? Another way we're seeing that this stuff is working is we had one student develop this is basically a project board, right? So they hang this on the job site. People coming into the job site can see that we're operating differently. We're doing things differently. A lot of these concepts are directly from our lean leadership coursework and conversations with the group. So one other way that we see if this is working or not is, so we had 120 people through the class, and we start surveying people. We start asking them, was this worth your time? What did you think? Did you like the class or not? Out of the 120 people, we had 53 people take the survey. Out of the 53 people, we've had 100% people saying they would recommend this course for others in the company. This is, again, take in mind, this is a 9-week course. This is 3 hours of homework every week, and this is a 1-hour phone call. We all talk about not having enough time already, and the fact that people are volunteering their time to go through this course tells us that we're hitting something right. And it's been great to hear people share and kind of talk through this stuff. So kind of the next step of where we want to take this and where we're offering this is, right now we've got it all across the country for our company. We've had now 260 people sign up for the class. But the next steps are offering this up to project teams. So we have one project team that went through this together. This was owners, architects, design team, us as the general contractor, and our key sub-trades, our MEP sub-trades. All went through the course together. What we were able to do then was we were able to start developing action plans for that group. The first week that we had this, we asked one question. We say, are we aligned around our operating principles? Everybody comes in with their answers that week, and they're all sharing operating principles based on their company. We're building our own companies outside of this. This is a 2-year project. We're building a virtual company. We wanted to align everybody around the same ideas and principles, and that's what we're able to do moving forward. So the last thing I want to leave you guys with, if you guys walk out of here tomorrow, hoping you guys can take this and start using it in your daily routine. So we talk a lot about PDSA, right? But the way we're explaining it now is hopefully a little bit different. And so we talk about the plan, right? What is the plan? You got to have a plan and start from there. You compare that to what is actually happening. So your plan compared to what is actually happening. If there's a difference, if there's a delta in those two, that's the gap or the problem, right? So that's the study. The act is how do we address that and how do we get better moving forward? An example of that is with the Lean Leadership class. We have 30 people sign up for the class, and every time we had we were trying to get 30 people to graduate, right? So that's the plan. What's actually happening? We're having about 10 people drop out every time that they were going through the class. So our gap was we were losing those few people. So the act part of this was now we check in with them more often, we make sure they have everything they need. Now we're up to 25 people graduating every time we do this. So thank you very much.
Any other questions?